Yo, you listen to Poet and the Professor. On this week's episode, we talk to our guest officer, Brandon Tatum, a 31-year-old, black, Texas-born Trump supporter. You heard that right. We talk about how Russian collusion is all a witch hunt and a series of coincidences. We talk about how Trump has done more for the black community than Obama or really any president. And we talk about how he's a boss that gets stuff done and he does things in a Christian way, even if maybe we don't know if he goes to church. But I mean, in the end, he's a servant of Jesus.
Now, what's cool about this show, you may remember a while back, we had a white nationalist remotely on the show, so they weren't actually in studio. This is the same deal today. So Brandon's not actually in the studio, but he joined us all the way from Arizona to bring us his pro-Trump ideology, which we appreciate. If you want to find out more about the Po and the Pro, check us out online at thepoandthepro.com. Email us at thepoandthepro@gmail.com. Find us on all your favorite podcast applications, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all that good shit. And might be wearing a MAGA hat next time you see me.
Yeah, I was going to say, Harry's hat is just turning a nice shade of bright red.
What is this, man?
Yes, once again, back is the incredible The Poet and the Professor with your host, Harry Harding, and the Professor, Jeff Frank. Let's go.
So, Brandon, welcome to the Poet and the Professor. This is Jeff.
I'm Harry.
And
Jeff and Harry, thank you for having me.
No doubt, man. Thank you for joining us, man.
So, I hear you're a fan of some this guy. I've heard a little bit about him. Something Donald J. something.
I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a fan, but I support the President of the United States.
Oh, we're already starting off politically correct, I see.
Well,
I just want to make sure our definitions are correct. That's all.
No, I'm with it. So let me tell you. So we're from Boston. We do a show about a bunch of things. It's not often about politics, but it's pretty hard to ignore the recent political climate and, of course, our honorable and respectable commander-in-chief. And now we live in the most liberal part of the most liberal city in the most liberal state. So I don't know almost any Trump supporters, and I really don't know any Black Trump supporters. So you are an absolute unicorn. And that's what this show is about, trying to understand, because from our perspective, it's a pretty unusual position. But a friend of mine recommended you and said that you would be able to thoughtfully describe your thought process and we'd be able to have a dialogue. And that's what we're interested in, not in attacks, not in shaming you for wearing a red hat. You do have the hat, though, don't you?
I do have one. I have a few.
Oh, Brandon.
I wear it often.
Yeah. But to us, that's very unusual. It's certainly very unusual to me, Brandon. So my boy tells me, he's like, yo, I got a dude, he's a Black Trump supporter. He's got he's got a little bit of a following. Like he's like has a little prominence in the movement. I'm going to be super real with you, Brandon. He went to send me a link, but I just knew it was going to be a 50-year-old Black dude with glasses and a big handlebar mustache. I just knew that. I knew that. I think we can hear from your voice. It doesn't seem like you're that.
You can tell he doesn't
No.
have
I can hear there's no a little mustache, maybe like a cool mustache, but I'm talking about like the barber from Coming to America mustache.
Yeah, I got a swagged out mustache.
Exactly. So what I'm interested in, before we get any further, because it's important to, again, this is one of the more hot button issues of the time. And so I'm interested if you could ask us any questions too, even though this is our show. I certainly love talking about myself. What, tell me about yourself, like where are you from, all that kind of stuff. Who's Brandon Tatum?
I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. Most of my life that I lived, I would characterize it as in and around the hood. My father was in my life. My mom and dad were split up. Just to give you a kind of a contextual background of my family, my grandmother had my mother when she was 12 years old. Most of my mother's side of my family, they're illiterate. I got 4 or 5 people in my family that's doing, the majority of their life in prison. So, I mean, I had a diverse background. I mean, we weren't always living in the hood, but we had spent time living in the hood. All of my family lived in the hood. And I was able to, me and my brother graduated from Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, which is obviously named after the famous Black poet Paul Laurence Dunbar. In the middle of the hood, we at our school, it had a balance, man. You had teachers that wanted to teach, and you had teachers that'll just pass you if you were an athlete or if they liked you. We had brothers pulling guns on each other in the parking lot, people coming off the street in the school fighting. So it was a mixture of drama. I was a All-American football player in high school. I was one of the top players in the nation. I got a full scholarship to play at just about any university I wanted to go to, and I decided to play the University of Arizona. I went there.
Yeah, Brandon?
Excuse me?
What sport did you say?
I played football. I was a safety.
He's from Texas, man. You know what he plays.
Yeah, man. I couldn't dribble with my left, so I couldn't play basketball. I was kind of trash. So, but I was a tremendous athlete. Nah, I don't even really watch football that much anymore, man. I'm a Cowboy fan. Okay, but I mean, even at times they get on my nerves. So
yeah, I don't watch football either because of Colin Kaepernick, the boycott.
Yeah, I think I never really was into NFL football. I was always a college fan in general, and then when Colin Kaepernick did that, and the way the NFL handled it, the way he handled it, it just really turned me off. I really didn't want to watch it anymore, for sure. Some people throwing.
I like that you included how the NFL handled it. I like that.
Yeah, I think I'm more upset with Colin Kaepernick, but I just wish people would keep it real and not be fake all the time. And I think that they were fake about the way they handled it. I don't think they had the players' best interest at heart either. But Colin Kaepernick made me the most upset.
Right. Well, keep telling. I think I know. The little I know about you, I think I know why. But please continue your story. So you're All-American. Go to Arizona.
Go to Arizona. Football didn't work out for me. Just kind of a contextual background about who I was, just as far as my attitude and different things, because God changed me in 2008. But I had a bad attitude. I got kicked out of high school my senior year for throwing a chair at a teacher. I was going to fight her. I just had a bad attitude. I had gold teeth in my mouth. I used to sag my pants. I'm tatted up. I got the hood that I grew up in tatted on my forearms. I got Young Savage tattooed on my stomach. And I kind of carried that mentality into college, and it didn't bode well for me when I was playing football. And I was in the doghouse, despite the fact that I was a tremendous athlete. I got saved in 2008, went to an apostolic church, got baptized, filled with the Holy Spirit. And it just changed my life. I stopped cursing. It kind of revolutionized my behavior. But football still didn't work out for me. I was in the 2010 NFL draft. The Oakland Raiders were going to draft me in the 6th round, despite the fact that I didn't even really play much at the University of Arizona. And I left the team early to join the NFL.
The Raiders will draft whoever got gold teeth, man. The Raiders are...
Yeah, if you got gold teeth and you can run a 4.3 in the 40, they'll draft you. So they ended up passing on me, man. It was a heartbreak for me. At the time, I had a young son. He was almost 1 year old. I had to make a decision about making money because, I'm a man and I got to take care of my responsibilities. I applied for everything in the city of Tucson. At this point, I had my degree from the University of Arizona. And the police department was one of the positions that I applied for. I didn't even know a police officer. I didn't really have a good idea about police, but, I needed to make some money and it didn't matter to me. So they ended up calling me back. Ironically, after me and my baby mama had an argument one night. I mean, we were just arguing over the phone, and they ended up calling me the next morning. And they were like, Mr. Tatum, and I'm thinking that she called the police on me. I'm like, man, this chick didn't call the police on me. But thank God she didn't. But they were like, hey, you applied for the job. So I made it my mission because I didn't know nothing about being a police officer. I said, man, I need to do a ride along and figure out if I really want to do this or not. And man, I did a ride along and it just blew my mind. I mean, for the first time in my life, I saw a hero. And I thought Officer Sean Payne, he was a white officer. I thought he was a hero, man. I saw that dude when we went from changing a flat tire of an old lady to driving 80 miles per hour down the road, almost died twice because people don't know how to get over, out of the way of the emergency vehicles. But I saw him save a kid's life. The kid was cutting his wrist in the back of a house. I saw it with my own eyes. And that dude was like a hero to me, man. I mean, nothing fazed him. And I remember him telling me he'd do this every day. And I was like, bro, you do this every day? He like, yeah, every day I do this. And at that point, I was like, man, I got to do this for a living. I think this is my calling. I became a police officer. I was on a SWAT team. I was a spokesperson. I trained new officers. I taught at the academy. I mean, I did everything. And then that kind of led me into being more political. I consider myself a Democrat at the time. All of my police friends were all Republicans, conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I voted for Barack. I refused to vote for Barack Obama his first term because I hadn't paid attention to politics, and I refused to vote for him just because he was black. I mean, that's one thing I had going for me, I guess, at the time. And then the second term, I said, hey, man, I'm gonna look at all the debates between him and Mitt Romney and decide who I think makes more sense for the country. And at the time, I thought Barack Obama made more sense. He was way more charismatic. I felt like he needed an opportunity to finish what he started his first term. And then everything changed when he started really commenting. I mean, it was residual, but he commented on Trayvon Martin. He commented on Michael Brown. He commented on the incident where the police officers arrested a professor at his own house because his neighbors thought he was breaking in the house, which, after being a police officer, it's reasonable to believe that he could have been breaking in his own house, or that it was somebody breaking into his house.
Was it our backyard?
Yeah, that happened about Professor Skip Gates. I know his daughter. She don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think was he from Harvard or something? I don't know what.
He's from Harvard. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a Harvard professor. But so long story short, the president commented on those things and he was completely wrong about that situation. He was wrong initially about Michael Brown. I mean, he sent DOJ staff to the funeral. And that just enraged me, man. Michael Brown was attempting to kill a police officer. DOJ investigation under Barack Obama and his administration determined that the officer was justified in using deadly force against Michael Brown. So all of that really started to cause a matriculation of negative effects on police all around the country. I saw it my own self, going to patrol. Black people and Hispanics, you just challenge us. We get in more fights, altercations. It just became a violent environment for us. We had nothing to do with that. And I wish the president would have had better rhetoric. But he doubled down on it. All the Democrats doubled down on their attack of police officers. And I said, man, I can't support them anymore. So for the first time I looked at the Republican Party. I loved Ben Carson. I thought he was a hero even before he even tried to run for president. He dropped out. He endorsed.
If I can just say real quick, Ben Carson spent some portion of his life living in the same neighborhood that I live in, maybe a mile away. I didn't ever meet him, but so I guess I'm in a way I'm pivotal to your life.
Yeah, yeah. You one person. What's they call it? One person away from
separation.
6 degrees. How many degrees?
1 degree of separation from Ben Carson and Skip Gates. Way to go, man.
Yeah. Right. You coming up in the world, man.
Yeah.
But so I liked him, man. I thought I was going to vote for him if he would have maintained, but he was a little too sleepy and lethargic, man. He couldn't really get the crowd going.
I believe I heard someone describe him as low energy. He's low energy. Did I hear that?
He was low energy, man. He was low energy, unfortunately. He had a great brain, but low energy. And unfortunately, he couldn't make it that far with that. But he endorsed Trump, which was shocking to me at the time because I thought Trump was just playing. I thought he was just, he was just being the boss that he is. He coming up, he gonna show these politicians that he can even get votes and he ain't even serious. But then once Ben Carson endorsed him, I started to really say, I need to really see what this man talking about because he can mess around and be a nominee. So I decided to go to a Trump rally. I worked the night shift. I ended up staying up past the night shift. I stayed up all the way to like 12 noon and I went to a rally and it blew my mind. Long story short, it blew my mind, man. All that stuff on the media about people being racist and attacking black people. And that Donald Trump was like this hateful, evil, bigoted person that's just spewing hatred behind the pulpit, if you may. It was totally not the case, man. The protesters were the crazy ones, man. They were yelling at people. They were calling me racist. I mean, I'm a police officer on the SWAT team at the time, and I was intimidated a little bit, man. I knew I could throw the hands if I had to, but as a regular citizen, I'm pretty sure people were afraid and intimidated. Right. Long story short, man, it was dramatic. So I for the first time in my life, I made a video about it. I just said, man, I got to tell my story. I can't type it out. I need to just tell it. It went viral. Long story short, I kept making videos that went viral. And then the one that kind of translated me into the point I'm at now, I made a video about Colin Kaepernick. While I was a police officer, I was in my car in the garage, and I just went off, and it got 70 million views on Facebook.
Wow.
All these media outlets started reaching out to me, and then I became the spokesperson of, I ended up leaving the police department to pursue being the spokesperson of Conservative Tribune, which was a conservative, like, online media network. Mm-hmm. And met Candace. That led to me to working for Turning Point USA as the urban.
Candace Owens, who kind of has a similar Black conversion story, like come to the Republican. I mean, I'm saying I know who she is.
Candace Owens. We both kind of realized that we were more conservative than we thought we were, and actually identify more with conservative values, and voted for President Trump in 2016. So we both were liberal before that, and we're both kind of, got a large following and pretty prominent in the movement. So that's who she is. And I met her before. She was with Turning Point or whatever, but long story short, mine and her connection led me to be the director of urban engagement with Turning Point, and I'm currently in that position now.
Director of urban engagement. So you know what? I heard that story. I'm sold. I've decided to support Trump, and another 4 years. That's how I look at it, Harry. So podcast over. Brandon, thank you for your time. You've been a great guest. All right.
So, do you have a question on deck?
Go ahead, Harry.
I have a question, Brandon. So, you mentioned about your distaste, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but at least your shift in thinking around Barack as a president, or it was centered around his rhetoric. And I'm curious about what your opinion is then about Trump's rhetoric, because I would not consider that to be Trump's strong suit. But I'm curious as to what about Trump's rhetoric is appealing to you.
Yeah, well, let me start with specifically just a little bit about Obama's rhetoric that really turned me off, because it became a chain event. So when he was talking about police officers, I saw the direct influence in my job. This is what I did for a living. And then also I started seeing other things that he was doing. The Iran deal, where they didn't gave all this money to Iran, some backdoor deal with different currencies. And I started really seeing a lot of negative things that he was doing. And then people started bringing up, what did Barack Obama do for the Black community? And so I couldn't really name anything. People were challenging me on this, and I couldn't name something specific that I thought that he did for the Black community that was effective, that I could say I was proud of. But I saw, a lot of other stuff that he was doing, and it wasn't just the rhetoric. It started with the rhetoric and a lot of other stuff that he was doing with taxes and, his stance on illegal immigration. Although he was verbally strict about it, he was a lot more lenient in certain areas, which I also saw being a police officer in a border state. So all that together made me dislike him. It wasn't just his rhetoric against police, but that was just a starting point. Mm-hmm. So President Trump, on his end, I honestly believe, and I know that I don't agree with the way he handles certain situations. I don't agree with some of his tweets, but I honestly believe that his rhetoric is much different than Obama's rhetoric. I feel like that Obama's rhetoric was negative, but nobody really made a big deal out of it. Most people didn't really talk about it. Oh, and I feel like on Trump's end, his rhetoric isn't that bad, but people are inflaming it as if it is. And so I think that I'm less distasteful with Trump's rhetoric, because I honestly don't think it's as bad as what people make it out to be. I felt like Obama's was much worse, and it just wasn't a public outrage.
Right. So I'm sure a lot of people, there's two different issues to conflate, and they're kind of conflated here. One is why would anyone be a conservative or not? And then the other is, why would anyone support Trump or not? So I'm going to continually try to direct us not towards why would anyone be a conservative, because I don't think being a conservative is so shocking. Many people are conservative. Many Black people are conservative. Many Black conservatives do have that push broom mustache, but many don't. But Trump supporter is where I actually start to think that specifically, even conservatives, it surprises me that conservatives would have the platform that conservatives had in 2015, 2016, and yet support this guy who is, I would say, very counter to those things. So again and again, I'm going to try to push in that direction. So, for example,
yeah, I would disagree. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, just that I'm gonna ask that direction. So, for example, you described the officer that you did a ride along with, right? Sean Payne,
Yes.
right? I remember his name, like, oh, hero. And he helped change a tire. He's rushing in and helping a kid that was suicidal, whatever it is, right? So that sounds like someone who's selfless, someone who's brave, someone who like does what needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that doesn't surprise me that you'd admire that guy.
True.
When I look at Donald Trump and his behavior, not just tweets, his behavior, is this a guy that's like selfless and loyal, right? Would Sean Payne say the things about you that Donald Trump says about so many people that he once said are great, but now he throws them under the bus, like Tillerson's dumb and whoever, the long list. The minute he don't fuck with you no more, suddenly you're the worst person you ever met, right? Cohen's garbage, everyone's awful, but these were like his closest people before. Would Sean Payne do that?
I mean, you want me to answer that question now, or you want to keep asking?
No, I meant like.
I think in a way I perceive Trump as being similar to Sean Payne, just in a different way. I mean, I haven't did a ride along with Donald Trump as a police officer and see if he had the ability to save somebody's life, which would be his job if he was a police officer. But I think it's very selfless that President Trump decided to even run for president. Mm-hmm. He didn't have to do that. That man is a billionaire. Nobody even disliked Trump much before he ran for president.
Not exactly. That man, you're right.
Let's be honest.
His own popularity comes from politics, not from before that.
But what I'm saying is that most people, even Spike Lee, most of the people that you see that hate him now, I mean, they loved him. They're in pictures with him. They didn't have a big problem with Donald Trump. So, he decided to give all that up to stoop down to the level of president. He didn't have to do none of this stuff. Donald Trump is not. It doesn't matter who's in office for Donald Trump. You can raise taxes, lower taxes. He probably ain't paying that much tax anyway.
I agree.
He's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. Most billionaires. Okay.
You would admit, though, that if Donald Trump can be described as many things, one of the things he certainly can be described as an egomaniac, correct?
I don't know. I don't necessarily would consider him an egomaniac. I don't see the man as an egomaniac.
No. Well,
I don't see him that way.
I would, in my opinion, I think anyone who runs for president has to have some kind of egomania running. I mean, the idea. No, I think. Well, I don't
think so.
I think
it's very selfless.
Run the free world and be the most prominent leader in the world. To say that you are not only qualified, but you're going to go ahead and run that, it requires some ego.
No, I don't think it requires confidence. I don't think it requires ego. I don't perceive that Obama had an ego. I'm hoping that the things.
Ordinary ego.
I didn't perceive it that way, So in my opinion, I thought it was just confidence. I thought Obama was very confident. And I thought at the time he was trying to do what he believed was right for the country and run against Hillary Clinton because she would have destroyed the country. That was, based on what he did. I think Trump is the same way. I think Trump is a very confident, optimistic person. So he said a long time ago that if he run, he'll win. And I think that he just have confidence in who he is, and he won. when nobody thought he did, and he probably shouldn't have won according to certain people. But he's just confident. I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. I don't really perceive him.
I mean, we can. I mean, at least maybe we're playing a little bit of the semantics game. I guess the point is, like, again, if I think of a Michael Jordan or a Tom, relating it to athletes, for example, you talk about a Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, or I mean, you were a football player. Name the best football player you've ever seen. Part of what drove them, I think, at some level was that they had to own the fact that I'm the best motherfucker out here. And I think I rarely see an athlete who is gets to a level, or anyone gets to a level of prominence or the best at their position or whatever they do, and there's not at least some level of ego attached to it. That's all I was saying.
In a way, Harry, I agree with Brandon in a sense. I don't agree at all that he was selfless to run for president, but I don't think egomania is the right word. I think what people usually say Donald Trump is, and what we can point to pretty clearly, is narcissism, because it's two things. It's vanity and insecurity at the same time, right? Somebody who it's very important to them how they're perceived, very important to them how other people see them. They can't get enough adulation, and even the slightest insult is a huge offense. Even if you said, he said, this is a great tie. Let's just imagine, this is a great tie. And you say, no, I don't, it's okay. That's like offensive, like, fuck you too then. So.
Well, I would think that's only a matter of opinion. The way I look at it is this: if you've spent your whole life building your brand and you work hard every day and you take pride in what you do, I think some people may find themselves being hyperly offensive when people try to disparage their character or try to malign their brand. I mean, especially if you built it from a point of being somewhat irrelevant to being one of the most relevant brands possible. I think if you work hard, you kind of take pride in certain things. And I can see people getting offended by a craft. I'm not necessarily the person to get too offended openly. But when I work hard on something, I don't want nobody trashing what I built.
All right.
But at the same time, I feel like that I personally, by the grace of God, probably have a little more humility, or maybe a little more of an ability to mask or divert from expressing those emotions more so than probably Donald Trump. But I can't jump to conclusions in that man's mind. I don't know how he really feels unless I sat down and had a conversation to him. And I don't think it's right that anybody try to play mind games and say, well, I know that this dude's a narcissist. I know that this is how he feel when he gets offended. I mean, I don't know how the man feel, but it could go either way. He could be a narcissist, or he could just be taking pride in his brand. I mean, the dude has built a huge brand, and I really do think that he is focused a lot on brand recognition.
I think we agree on that. I don't think I think the behavior and the things that he says and does lead me to believe that he probably values brand recognition and media perception above almost all else. And you know what? Works pretty good. But you said,
can you admit that you don't really know him?
Well,
the dude has more to life.
Did you meet him?
I mean, he has. No, I'm saying none of us know him. So
right. I
project it. Okay.
Yeah, we're interpreting behaviors from a
right, but that's how we like you. First, you liked Obama, then you didn't, and you had to make decisions. You didn't at the end. You didn't say, "Well, I don't know him, so I must withhold judgment."
Well, I didn't say he was a narcissist and make that conclusion. I just said based on the things that he did. I don't not like Obama. I don't not like him. I just didn't like what he did as a president. I don't like the things that he put into place. I thought Obama was probably one of the most charismatic political leaders. He was cool, shooting threes, playing basketball. He was the most lovable president we probably ever had. He's probably a cool dude if you knew him personally. I just didn't like what he did. I didn't really have a problem with him as a person. Policy-wise, rhetoric and policy. But as a person, I don't know the man. I don't really care who he is as a person. I just didn't like what I saw him do on paper. That's it. I mean, I could have smoke a cigar with Obama. He's probably decent, but I just didn't like him as the president.
But is there not a level where is the only way to know somebody's character to have a one-on-one conversation with them? Is that the only indicator of their character?
That's the best way to be unequivocal about somebody's character. You can make assessments all you want, but to pin it on somebody as unequivocal evidence that this person is this way, to let that drive your emotions is probably not fair unless you meet a person. It's cool to make an assessment, but you just can't target it and say, this is who he is. This is why I hate him, or this is why I love him. I think it's invaluable for you to meet a person, because a lot of times when you meet somebody, you either find out that they realer than you thought they were, or you find out that they faker than you thought they were. So I just base my principle on, do I like what the person does, instead of saying, do I like them as a person? If that makes any sense. I don't really know Trump, but I like the policies that he's.
There's two kinds of does. There's two kinds of does. So one is does. You could just say like, okay, what is the list of platforms that he endorses, and you could just say, I'll support anyone that follows those platforms. And if you recall a little while ago, I specifically said I didn't want to aim at that, because I actually think that, again, even though a lot of these policies I think are ruinous or whatever it is, Trump didn't invent them. I'm saying specifically that this guy, I've been mostly asking, but there's various aspects of his, campaign and then tenure that are, I would say, negative, that aren't like the platform. So, for example, what I was going to say is character. You said the word, you can't tell somebody's character. But in the end, our job is to select the president. We're almost never going to meet the president. I've never met any of them. And our job is to select the president as best we can. And part of it is character. So I don't see how you can subtract that from the equation. And when we look
okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
When we look at Donald Trump's character, I think he's shown severe defects in character pretty frequently. That doesn't mean everything he ever said is awful and bad and untrue.
Give a couple examples of character flaw, just to put more context to this.
Well, what are some examples of character flaw of Donald Trump?
Other than the prostitutes peeing on him in Russia. That's
one. So a big character flaw would be frequent lying. Now, I don't necessarily mean, you're lying about policy positions. I mean, just going out and making claims. Oh, I never said that. Oh, I did say that. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Oh, I would. Maybe going back and forth. Now, my friend, my only other Trump supporter friend, he tries to go, oh, well, that's exaggeration, or that's puffery, or this, that, and the other.
Well, give me an example of something he lied about, and I can probably comment on it. But just to say that he lied, there is an element of, a person willfully speaking, I'm going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. That is a projection into the future. Mexico is not going to write a check. Everybody knew that. But his plan was to have that happen inevitably. So the person can say he lied about it. No, I don't think he lied about it. I think he was projecting that is what his plan is going to be. Things like that, people are, if you don't like him, people are hard on him about it. If you like him, of course, you give him grace. So I think that wouldn't be necessarily a good argument. But if you can give me something specifically that he intentionally lied about, that wasn't a projection into the future, that just so happened to not come to fruition as of yet.
Sure. So here goes a lie that I find pretty significant. So there's 10 instances throughout the campaign where he said, I'm not involved with Russia. I don't have any deals with Russia. All I have is a beauty, a beauty pageant in Russia. And then it comes out later, oh, you were dealing with Russia up until November of 2016. Your people say that, not Mueller, and you dispute it. Your people say you were dealing with Russia. And then he goes, well, I had a deal on the table. I don't want to lose out on money. That's a pretty significant lie.
I don't perceive it that way. It's a difference between. No, I don't think it's a lie. It's a difference between having a dealings with Russia that interferes with your position as the president or as a candidate. Now, if you ask him, did he have dealings with them? He didn't have dealings with them that is associated with his campaign, or dealings with him that will cause him to not be eligible to be the president. Any kind of fraudulent dealings with them. So that's true that he don't have any dealings with him of that nature. Did his lawyer, according to what, whatever his lawyer's name, I forget his name. Whatever he said was that they had a business deal that Cohen was working. That's to me, that's playing semantics, and that is irrelevant to me. In my opinion, I could see how a person would probably have a problem with it, but the way I described it is the way I see him speaking on his Russia involvement. the only purpose that we're even talking about Russia is felonious or some type of involvement that's illegal or counterproductive to this country.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand.
They don't exist.
Brandon, I'm not sure I understand. You're saying it's not a lie because it's not important.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you're perceiving his statement to be, well, I don't have any dealings as far as it possibly being a money deal or something that the lawyer is working. I'm saying he's saying I don't have no dealings with them feloniously that has anything to do with negative to my campaign.
Is that what he said, or is that what you're interpreting and reading into it? Did he say I don't have any felonious deals, or did he say I don't have any deals?
The purpose of asking him about it was based on a potential investigation into his involvement with Russia. It's a felonious negative deal that would make him ineligible or cause him to be disqualified or go to prison. So when he say, I don't have no dealings with them of that nature, or I don't have any dealings with them pertaining to an investigation or pertaining to the rhetoric around him having some felonious dealings with them, he said he doesn't. Later on, they found out that there was somehow a deal of that's in some financial aspect that his lawyer is working. I think it's a different thing. And when they come out and find it or say that he did it, he didn't say, oh, no, that's a lie. He said, well, yeah, we had that, but I'm not doing anything with Russia that's outside of the legal ramifications or to speak to the felonious stuff that they're saying he's doing. When he said it, that's what I perceived it. And then when they go later on and find out whatever through, a BS investigation that I believe, he said, yeah, I did. It's a play on semantics. I
don't know if that's semantic, but we'll move off of it. You said your piece. I don't know. Semantics is like one little letter. I'm saying a guy says, he goes, I don't deal with Russia. Then later on it comes up, I had a deal with Russia. I was working a deal with Russia. That's not semantic.
It's contextual. It's contextual in the interview. You got to listen in the interview what questions they were asking them and what led to the line of questioning. And when I hear them question him, they're questioning him about dealings that he's not supposed to have with Russia that are somehow illegal or somehow some type of collusion deals.
Just because I sent this to my friend, I made a list. I made a quick list. And I sent it to my friend. Okay. So I happen to have the actual, their one sentence quotes, whatever. I'm not involved with Russia on another day. I know nothing about Russia. I don't deal there. Another day. I have nothing to do with Russian folks. Another day. No deal that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away. Another day. No deals, no loans, no nothing. And another day. I don't know Putin. So you don't have to agree.
I don't know Putin. See, there's another semantic. Do I know Putin? Yeah, he know of Putin. Everybody in the world knows Putin, but he don't have any personal relationship with Putin. So that's
the last one. Okay. No deals, no loans, no nothing. That sounds like a blanket denial of some shit that later on came out to be true, Brandon.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
Okay. All right. I'll give you another lie. Maybe you're not. You feel like between being in the Army, between being a cop and doing football and being from Texas, you should have been in the Army, because that feels like the other thing that would match your life story.
I wanted to be in the Army, but they wouldn't take me because I had too many tattoos. Well, I wanted to be in the Marine, but they wouldn't take me.
You can't be in the Marine with tattoos. Don't they get tattoos?
You can't have 5 tattoos visible in PT gear.
Huh.
And because I was going in as an officer, I don't know if that's enlisted is different, but as an officer, if you go and sign up, they have to get a waiver for having more than 5 tattoos visible in PT gear. Now they can waive it, but the guy never responded to me, so I just went on. I'm glad I did, because
they could have had an NFL level safety as a Marine. And what year was this that you tried?
It was a couple years ago, right before I got on the SWAT team. So it was recent. It was more recent. Well, I'll tell you this. I tried out for the. I was going to be, before I even became a police officer, I was going to the Air Force, but I had a kid out of wedlock, and so they wouldn't let me sign up because me and my baby mama wasn't married. So that I was going to go in the Air Force at that point, but then when they did that, I just went on. I ended up becoming a police officer. So God has his plan, so I ain't tripping.
Yeah, well, another, and I'm not. This is not just going to be a bottomless list of lies. This is just 2 examples. He didn't like the Russian one. So how about when he said troops received one of the biggest pay raises ever, and there was the first pay increase in more than 10 years? when he said that to a. Now, what was kind of crazy about that, and what shows to me, what I use to kind of gauge a guy's mentality, that's not some crafted thing, because he was talking to the troops when he said that. So it's not like, Huckabee Sanders said, here's a way to trick him, because he was talking to the one people that definitely knew that wasn't true. But do you think he didn't say that, or that wasn't true, or he meant it a different way?
I don't know. I don't know. If he said it and it wasn't true, then it's a lie. But, I think that there's multitude of different reasons behind that. It's a lie. It's a lie. I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep because he possibly got bad information and relayed information that wasn't true to the troops. I don't think he just made it up. I don't think he even know that information. Somebody had to provide that to Donald Trump. And they could have provided him with bad information, which could have led to him it becoming a lie. But that doesn't bother me. I understand that's.
I'm interested. Like, when you say it doesn't, but like, if you had to guess, why?
Like Obama lied about a lot of stuff, and it didn't deter me from voting for him per se. I don't think it was intentional. I don't think that when Obama said you could have your health, you could keep your doctor, and through Obamacare you can have your doctor and keep it. I think maybe he intended for it to happen. It ended up not happening at all, and it was a complete lie. Now conservatives bash him over it and say, look, he completely lied to the American people. Inevitably, I think that maybe he had intentions to do it and it didn't work out. Now people say it's a lie. I mean, he probably meant to do it. I think Donald Trump probably got bad information because he ain't sitting at a computer crafting information and looking at all the stats for the troops.
He's not sitting at the computer crafting information and stats. I feel confident we agree on that. I like when
people do. Every president do this, man. People compile these stats. You go into a meeting. I mean, I was there. I went to the White House. So you compile stats. They send you in a meeting. They tell you what your talking points are, and you go out and deliver it to the people. And if he made a false statement, I think it's a combination of, obviously it falls on him because he's the president, but his people crafted some false information and he provided it out to people. And it was what you're saying is true, it's a lie. But I don't lose sleep over stuff like that. I think that it probably was a mistake on his part. It was a statistical error. I mean, Dan, that's not going to kill my
support.
Me voting for him.
Okay.
I want to get to something because this is so. We joked a little bit in the beginning about your hat, the MAGA hat, and the MAGA hat gets all kind of attention, negative attention. But I'm curious because just through this conversation, you seem very sensible, you seem articulate, genuine. So I'm very curious because I want to ask this question to a Trump supporter who I feel has all those attributes around the MAGA platitude in particular. Can you tell me what the Make America Great Again, when in America are we talking about? What exactly does this platitude mean to you as a Trump supporter? And can you actually articulate when was America actually great? What time period are we talking about?
Yeah, I think it's a philosophy, right? The whole meaning of what Trump has done is to put America first. At a point in our country, I felt like we felt as a nation that America should be first, that we shouldn't be sending money overseas and worrying about everybody else's problems. We should be focused on what America is dealing with, and we should prioritize that. And people could complain that Trump is a nationalist, but these are the concepts. I think that the country is going way too far left and promoting socialism and things that the founding fathers will consider to be contradictory. The Second Amendment, I think, is literally people want to ban guns, which is totally against the Second Amendment. I think the faith in God in our country is starting to dwindle, and people are starting to not want God to be relevant in anything.
Right, Brandon, don't listen to some of the other episodes of this podcast. Don't do that.
So what I'm saying is that those things are what most people resonate as making America great again. Going back to our philosophies, going back to the things that make this country great, going back to upholding capitalism and tax cuts and limited government, all of those things that we have been successful in throughout the tenure of this country. I think that those are the things that the president is saying we need to go back to. If you just listen to his speeches, that's what he talk about all the time. It has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with slavery. I mean, I don't even know why people would articulate that as being any craft to that.
But Brandon, to your point, when America was thriving and the economy was thriving to those principles you're talking about, slavery was a main part of our economic.
No, it wasn't. Slavery was counterproductive. That's why when the civil rights, when I said civil rights, that's why when the Civil War happened, when the North won, they didn't implement slavery because slavery is a counterproductive. It wasn't even successful financially. That's why the South struggled with it. That's why they never implemented it in the North, because it was counterproductive. It wasn't successful. It wasn't what America should have been. That's why it never was retained after the North won in the Civil War.
So then, are you talking about Reconstruction era? Are you talking about industrial?
I'm talking about slavery. I'm talking about
no. What I'm saying is back to when America was great, when we were upholding principles and capitalism was, that
has nothing to do with slavery. I don't think that was a particularly great time. People didn't even live as long as they live now back in slavery. So it was, like we were flourishing and we had all this technology and it was great and people were coming from all sorts of countries and we have inventions and we're booming in the economy. Like those things wasn't even relevant in slave times. None of us were even born then. How would Trump even know anything about slavery? He's not even connected and none of us are. We're not even going back that far in American history. We're talking about philosophies and principles that we believed in this country and we're watching it dwindle away. And we're saying, let's make America great again, which means let's focus on America. Let's focus on the things that make us great. Let's focus on unity. Because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that has gone on in Obama's tenure that I feel like a lot of Americans were dissatisfied with. And there's a lot of things that happened in Bush's tenure that Americans are dissatisfied with. And President Trump is saying, let's get back to the principles. Let's focus on the people. Let's get away from this politics and let's make this country great again. Let's secure our borders. Let's cut taxes. Let's give people opportunities. Let's focus on minority communities. All of these things that he's doing, I think is what the concept of making the country great again is. It's not all that BS that other people prescribe, in my opinion.
So let me, you mentioned another thing, which is Trump's bringing us back to certain principles, whatever, that make America great again. And you mentioned that one of those things is, well, you said America is losing its connection to God or losing its faith. And so you feel like Trump is like bringing America closer to God?
I think that Trump is allowing laws, obviously the people that he elected to be in the Supreme Court, or the Justice Court, or whatever you call it.
Yep.
Supreme Court Justice. Supreme Court justices are conservative, or God-fearing, in most part, God-fearing people that are going to uphold people having the right to freedom of religion in this country. Donald Trump has literally had people praying in the White House. They prayed for him in the White House. He invited hundreds of pastors. He invited hundreds of pastors to come to the White House and to be a part of the mission moving forward, which I think is something that when I look at it, I think is great to have Christian pastors in the church, coming to the White House and being able to converse with the president about what needs to happen, even in the Black community.
He did. Let me say, though, but I don't know that I think that every president has involvement with, like, the clergy. We haven't had an atheist president. We haven't had a president that says, you know what, we don't let reverends in here. Like,
I think during Obama's tenure, we saw more of an anti-Christian sentiment versus in Trump's administration.
From Obama?
From Obama.
I think, does Trump go to church? Because Obama goes to church.
Well, okay. You want to talk about the church that Obama went to before he was the president?
I
wouldn't consider that to be I don't know what church Obama goes to. I think Obama is a Muslim, but when you look at the church that he went to before he became the president, that was a very shameful thing that he did. And how could he be under administration like that or clergy like that? That's racist and anti-Semitic. And that was an embarrassment. I do think that the president gets Christian counsel, whether he goes to a church or whether he's getting counsel from a chaplain. I think that he does do that. He talks about God. He says, God bless America. He say God in almost everything, almost every speech.
Brandon, they all say God bless America. Just to be clear.
No, I'm saying no. But he specifically talks about God. He specifically talks about retaining God in our culture on speeches that he's done. He's not ashamed of that. And so,
you think is he as religious as you are?
I don't know. I'm not around that man. I don't know if he even go to church or not. I'm just saying the things that he implemented.
Even though you don't know that, you said you think Obama's a Muslim, so you don't know him. He specifically.
Well, I'm saying, based on what Obama did, Obama never articulated anything about Christianity while he was in. He was sympathetic towards Islam. I don't know what he is. I think he's probably a Muslim, but that don't rock my boat that much. But I'm just saying, I think based on his rhetoric and the things that he did, I believe that he probably was more Muslim than he was Christian. The president is a Christian. He said he's a Christian. Now, I don't know.
In the same breath, we say, okay, so.
I don't know if that man what relationship with God is. I'm just saying. I think
none of us do.
And I think Obama was a Muslim based on what he did. I think President Trump is a Christian based on what he's done.
America about freedom of religion. Like I'm getting confused. So even if Obama was Muslim, I don't agree that he is. But even if he was, like, isn't that attacking a fundamental principle about America, which is freedom of religion?
I didn't say that was attacking. I'm a Christian, and I like the fact that President Trump is promoting Christianity. We were founded on Christian principles. If you look at any of our founding documents, they were documented from the Christian Bible. So I like that about the president. So and there's a lot of Christians in this country. Probably most of the biggest religion in this country is Christianity. So what I'm saying is that Christian principles are something that I like and a lot of Americans agree with. And I feel like Donald Trump is expressing those things and supporting those, even with the elections or the selecting of Supreme Court justices that are Christian and conservative. And so I'm just saying that those are the things I like about him.
Is part of promoting. So I agree. I'm pretty sure at least I believe Kavanaugh's Catholic. The other guy,
it's still relative.
The Catholic is a type of Christian. I know Protestants don't know, but Catholic type of Christian. But I more mean, what about isn't part of being Christian or promoting Christian values like being somewhat Christ-like, like at least trying, going in that direction a little bit? Or is,
I think,
go ahead.
I think that the mission, according to the Bible, is that you try to be like Christ and you strive to do that, and you have a personal relationship with God, and you work on the things that you're flawed in. And hopefully over time, God can work with your heart and get you in a position that you're more like Christ than you were the day before. That's what the objective is. But that's everybody is in a different place, and they have their own relationship with God that, I think when I was in college, people probably thought I'd never go to church. They probably thought I'd never get saved. They probably thought I was going to hell. And then, a year later, I found God, and it really revolutionized who I am. So I don't know. I think the president is improving. I think the president believes in God. I mean, I see him.
Got one way to go.
He prays in the White House. You know what I'm saying? Like he actually prays in the White House. He let black pastors pray for him. The dude that he rescued from overseas prayed for Trump in the White House when they did a press conference. So he's open to it, and people are praying for him. I pray for him every day. So I'm hoping that his relationship with God is strengthened, and not just for me, but for his own salvation and for the betterment of the country. Because the stronger he is in his relationship with God, the better he's going to be for everybody. Because he ain't like he's going to get out of there anytime soon. So,
all right. So I got it. So I think we got that. So how about, this is a big issue for me. Which is not, the Republicans are certainly enabling this, but the Republicans weren't no, at least no one had the guts to do it before. What about the nepotism? What about his daughter and son-in-law and his sons and everyone working for him and getting security clearance and working in the administration? And they don't got a lot of experience. They got experience working at, Trump Inc. But, Kushner negotiating with the Saudis. Is that a good thing that a president would do?
Yeah, I mean, these are the people that he know and trusts the most. It's his family members. And I think that they're probably heavily qualified. But all of them are brilliant, upstanding people. Trump is probably the outcast. Right. His children are excellent. They have, most of them.
It's actually no judgment on that. I don't necessarily agree that all his children are so excellent, but I don't think. They're not involved in any of the BS that you normally see with president's kids and all this stuff. Obama's kids were little kids, but you're talking about adult children. They've all been very accomplished and established. His daughter has had her own brand, worked independently for Trump's corporation, which is $1 billion corporation. I think she have some leverage to get the things done that need to be done according to the position that he's given her. But
I mean, if you had kids, man, and you raise your kids, right? You trust your kids are going to be loyal and they're going to do the right thing and they're going to have integrity. So I'm not shocked.
So let's
kids in roles that are.
When you was on the police department, could if you had a brother, could he have been your partner also, or your sergeant? Like, oh, he's my brother and he's.
If it's an appointed position, then yeah. If I decided that my brother was qualified to do it and I can appoint him, I would.
No. You're an officer.
You can't appoint somebody on a police department. Go ahead. What you say?
You're an officer, but your brother's the sergeant, and he supervises you. They can do that.
Oh, you can do that if you're on a police. Well, this is how they do it. No. If you're on a police department and you have a brother or you're dating somebody, they try to separate you for conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm. Conflict of interest.
Because you're working impartially. You're not working for each other. So the thing is that if your dad is the chief of police and you graduate through the ranks and you become assistant chief, they're not gonna stop that. And in some situations they can't stop it. It's just a rule that they have. It doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to do the wrong thing. It's that they don't want that. They don't want that to happen on the police.
It doesn't mean that people are going to. I actually agree with you that it doesn't mean maybe that you and me know a very different Donald Trump, but the Donald Trump that you know has this ironclad integrity, but there's still the appearance of impropriety. Right?
I didn't say the man had an ironclad integrity. I just think that his integrity is enough for me to vote for him and for him to run the country. But I don't see anything wrong. I mean, I don't think his children are doing anything wrong. I think that's their dad. He trusts them. They're very qualified, and I think they're doing a pretty good job.
They're not very qualified to work in the White House. I'm not saying.
I'm saying on paper
like this at any point.
I'm saying on paper and stuff like that. But do they have integrity? Yes. Can they follow instructions and directions? Yes. I mean, can they negotiate? Yes. Kushner can negotiate. The dude is a brilliant guy. He's getting it done. I think the things that he have them doing, they have the ability to do it. And when they leave the office of president, they leave his administration, they're going to have it on their resume. But I think certain positions, I mean, you don't have to have a degree behind your name to get the stuff done. I think that, look at the president. There's no qualification to be the president. You don't have to go to Harvard.
That's the rare thing. Well, for example, the president doesn't need security clearance because he's the president, right? But other people have to go through all this stuff that the actual president don't.
Well, I'm not sure if the president doesn't need security. The president does need security clearance, and not unless I'm mistaken, because you can't look at classified information unless you've been.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I mean, he has it by definition. He can't fail. If he's elected, he gets to see. Do you see what I mean? But
he has to. I mean, no, they vet you when you're a candidate. So are you able to qualify? Because sometimes when you're a candidate and you're in the primary, they have to brief you with certain things too. So the candidates get security clearance, and they have to qualify to make sure they can get security clearance before they can even become a nominee. Right. So I mean, I'm under the impression that that's the case. So everybody that's running for president have to be able to at least be able to have a security clearance. Right. You don't just get it just because you somehow won a nomination. You have to at least qualify for it. But I mean, Hillary Clinton shouldn't have a security clearance for sure. But that's an example of somebody who shouldn't have it that ended up retaining it, which I definitely disagree with. If Trump did the same thing, I hope that he would lose his security clearance and be impeached as the president. But I think it's a dynamic thing when you're looking at appointees. It's based on the man that's appointing them and say, okay, I think this person is qualified to do that. I think Ben Carson, I feel like that he's smart enough and intelligent enough to make proper decisions in his position, but he don't have any experience doing what he's doing now. But I think as a man with his history growing up in poverty, I think he has, and he's a brilliant guy. He has life experience. I think he can speak to those issues. And these people aren't doing it by themselves. The president isn't just sitting in the Oval Office by himself. I mean, that's like a head football coach. The head football coach isn't ain't running the offense. He has an offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator, and assistants, and they come to him for him to be the leader to say, okay, I give you the green light that makes sense to me. Or may say, no, I don't like what you're doing. We're gonna run the Hail Mary on this play. And that's what the president does. That's what a lot of these people in these political positions, they have people that are assistants that look up stats and data for them. And then they have to have the leadership to make the decision and say, okay, we need to change our budget on that. Every administration probably does it, but I don't think that Trump is somehow unless his kids start effing up, and I'm like, okay, bro, you gotta drop them. If they're your kids, it doesn't matter. You gotta drop them. They're not doing a good job.
would effing up be like Kushner trying to establish a back channel with Russia to like talk off the record? Would that be like a fuck up? Well, that's fine.
I don't think it's a mess up, and I don't think when you talking about when and then during the campaign or as in the administration now
during the campaign, right?
Well, if people say it's during the campaign, there's nothing wrong with that. Every president who was a nominee communicates with foreign people. They have to get intel and do different things. They have a security clearance. It's legal to do it. Every president does it. Every presidential candidate does it. I don't know why people are just making it such a big deal that Trump does it. I think it's because they want to boast of this Russian collusion stuff that don't exist. But I don't have a problem with that unless it was illegal. If it was illegal, then people need to go to jail and they need to fire him and the president needs to be held accountable. But nothing that Kushner's done, even the dealings with the president and Michael Flynn and none of that stuff was illegal. So, and I don't know why people say
nothing Michael Flynn did was illegal?
No, it wasn't. He didn't do anything illegal. Only reason he got indicted was because he made a false statement to FBI. But what he did wasn't illegal. But the fact that he made a false statement was illegal. What he did was
did you let people go with this? Oh, all you did was lie to me. You just let them go?
What do you mean? No, I mean if you broke the law, you broke the law. I think that it's tic-tac, and I think it's a scam in order to get people indicted that hopefully they flip on Donald Trump. People do it on the police department too. You do some minor offense, they can give you a break for it, or they can take you to jail. You know what I'm saying? If you had, you know, I don't know what's something you can have lenience on, like if you had a ticket, you speeding. You know, if you go 20 over the speed limit in any jurisdiction, that's a criminal speeding. Most officers will be like, okay, I'm gonna cite you for 15 over. Have a good day. Or they can hit you with the 20 and arrest you. In my state, there's expired registration in a foreign state, which is a misdemeanor. We had instruction not to charge people with that because it's literally if you have expired registration in a state that you don't have registration in, it's a misdemeanor. Now I got arrested for that, before I became a police officer. But most officers don't. They have the discretion. But if you think I had dope, you arrest me for that so you can get in my pocket. Search incident to arrest. So there's ways to get around it, and there's ways to target people if you want to get something from them. That's why these little bitty laws are still on the books. Because if they can't catch you for the big fish, they can just go ahead and pop you for the little lines of police officers.
Right, because selective enforcement. Right, I get it.
Selective enforcement. It happens.
But so
I think that okay.
Is Rick Gates, Paul Manafort, George Papadopoulos, Mike Flynn, Michael Cohen, Roger Stone. This is all pity pat selective enforcement stuff?
Yeah, look at what they was charged with. Manafort was charged with something that he did like 15 years ago. That had nothing to do with nothing he did even when he knew President Trump. I mean, maybe it was 11 years ago. But you look at Michael Flynn. Look at all these people's conviction. What did they get indicted for? They got indicted for lying to FBI. They didn't get indicted for nothing related to collusion. They didn't get that. Oh, except Cohen. Cohen is different. Cohen, all of these other people was Mueller's investigation on a federal level. Michael Cohen was a state crime that he committed, which I think they targeted him because they want him to flip on Donald Trump. But they ain't got nothing there. So you can't equate Cohen with the rest of these people because that wasn't a Mueller investigation, technically. But I know that Mueller had something to do with it. But none of them were involved in any Russian collusion. So any conspiracy, nothing. They had nothing to do with nothing that Mueller is supposed to be investigating. Quite frankly, as a taxpayer, I'm upset about the fact that they haven't found nothing on nobody.
Roger Stone, in the indictment for Roger Stone, right, the latest guy to be indicted, they talk about how he specifically went to go talk to, I believe it's pronounced Guccifer, right? Guccifer 2.0, Russian hacker, and communicate like to get intel like, hey, this WikiLeaks hack, when's it coming out? Then the guy tells him, and then he goes and he tells Bannon, right? And
you're right.
And the day, like it might have been the day or the day before. So he hits the guy up, and then he tweets later on like, "Oh, it's coming," and then it comes out. So that's not like colluding with them.
It's not, and collusion is not even a crime, but that's not colluding.
Well, I'm just using the word. It's conspiracy to defraud the American.
Well, if it was a conspiracy to defraud America, he'd have got charged with it. He didn't. If that's what he did, he would have got charged with conspiracy, and he would have been beheaded or put to death. But he didn't get charged with that. He got charged with lying about WikiLeaks to the FBI. The people are making this stuff. It's a witch hunt.
Well, why did he lie?
I don't know why he lied. To be honest, I don't know why he lied. Maybe he didn't want to get in trouble.
Why would he get in trouble if he didn't do nothing wrong? Are you there? Shit.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, we hear you again.
Yeah, somebody called me in the middle of this. But anyway, I don't know why he lied, man. I don't know why Flynn lied. There's another guy that they popped for lying, and I think that wasn't fair because they interviewed him and they told him not to have a lawyer present, and then they ended up popping him for something he said without a lawyer present. I mean, it's just tick for tack, man. When you're in law enforcement, you know what this is. They're gonna get you and string you up and run you dry. Hopefully, you snitch on somebody. That's what it is. They're gonna run Roger Stone dry money because the government has big dollars. Just like if you was a dope boy, if you're a drug dealer and you pushing mad weight, they may not really have much on you. They'll get you for some little stuff to hopefully they drain your pockets because the government has big money. You got to spend your own money to go to court and pay for lawyers. And they're going to run you dry. Michael Flynn he lost his house and everything. And he got popped for something that people don't even do. Michael Flynn ain't even doing jail time for that. So, I mean, Roger Stone probably not going to do no jail time either.
I think Roger Stone might be in for it, but we'll see. But
how much you want to bet he won't? He ain't going to jail for that. That man ain't going to jail. He probably do a plea agreement and he ain't going to do no time in jail.
I don't know.
It's a solid show, man.
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to whether Roger Stone's going to do a lot of time. One more thing that Roger Stone said, I just had to Google. I wanted to get the name right. He called or he texted Mr. Credico in 2017 to do a Frank Pentagelli, whatever it is. I don't know the name, but I recognize the reference. In The Godfather, a dude was going to testify against the mafia, but then instead, when he showed up on that day, he just said, "Oh, I don't know nothing. Then he killed himself. Right? So when you tell a guy to do that, aren't you telling him, "Yo, maintain"?
Who told the guy that?
Roger Stone. Roger Stone texted that to Credico.
Man, I don't know. Listen. It don't. If he texts somebody that, and it's a direct correlation to some mafia stuff, it don't look good, but it ain't a crime. And if the guy didn't do what he said do, then it didn't. I don't think it mattered. I mean, that's all semantics. I don't know, man. I met Roger Stone. I thought he was a good dude. I mean, I thought he was cool. But like I said, man, if the dude did something wrong, he need to go to jail. I ain't covering for that man. All I'm saying is that they popped him on what? They did a raid on his house because he lied to the FBI. Yet and still, McCabe, Comey, Hillary Clinton, they all lied to the FBI. And nothing happened to them. And that's why I feel like the justice is not being played out fairly because Hillary Clinton should be in prison right now. She should be in prison.
You agree with the witch hunt and all that? Like, this is just, you're not.
It's a witch hunt, dude. I mean, in 2 years, they ain't found nothing on Trump. They hate that man. And then
wait, what do you mean? When you say they don't find nothing on Trump, in Cohen's indictment, he's referred to as individual number one, right? So like he would be indicted already, but they just didn't indict a sitting president. But individual number one is a co-conspirator with Cohen.
That's based on what Cohen's testimony is. That's not true. They haven't found that as a fact. Cohen is saying that Trump is saying this to him. Cohen is saying all this stuff. Cohen ain't, people didn't believe, people thought Cohen was the hatchet man and he was under Trump and he couldn't be trusted. And now all of a sudden, everything he says is real. Cohen just trying to say what he needed to say so he can get less time in prison. That man, that ain't true. Now, if they go through an investigation in the court of law and they find and determine that President Trump was a co-conspirator in something, then they need to take action as necessary. But this is the man, I don't trust that man. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. That's why you got to go to court for stuff like this. He probably lying. He just want to get less time.
How long were you a cop?
I was a cop for 6.5 years.
6 years, that's a long time. I don't think I've never held a job, one single job that long.
Yeah, and I wrote several thousand case reports and I made hundreds of arrests.
I believe.
So, I mean, I had a lot of work in Tucson. I'll tell you that. So I've been in part of these investigations.
No, I believe you. But listen,
I know what it is.
That's what I'm going to ask you. So if a guy, right, there's one guy and we suspect that he's a Crip, and then we arrest 7 different dudes around him for lying about Crip shit or doing Crip shit, that makes you think it's more likely that it's a police witch hunt or that maybe this guy's a Crip.
Well, this is a scenario. If I'm selling big dope and I'm sending dope across state lines and you arrest everybody around me for parking tickets, that ain't got nothing to do with dope dealing. So you trying to get them to flip on me. You're trying to get them to snitch on me.
So I guess
that's what they do.
Whether or not
Nothing they're arresting these people for have anything to do with Donald Trump or Russia collusion. It has nothing to. Now, if they were arresting these fools for collusion and involvement with the Russian government, then I'll be like, dang, man, this ain't going good for Trump. I would be like, dang, man, he's gonna be out of there soon. They ain't arrest these people for nothing that involves Russia collusion or Russia at all.
All right. Well, last Russia related. I think I got you on this. I'm very. Let me say here's why this is useful, real quick, if I can say. All right. I agree with you. I agree with this as little now as I did before I talked to you, but it does give me hope at how earnest you are. Right. It's not like you see the same Donald Trump I see and you like it. You see a different guy. And that kind of makes me feel better because maybe one day, you can look at it this way too. Maybe one day you'll see, you know what, I vouched for this guy, but I realize now I was wrong. Or I will say, maybe one day I'll say, I was hard on this guy and actually he was our savior. And I'm glad we made him our permanent emperor.
Yeah,
so,
that dude ain't paying my bills, man. That dude ain't paying my bills. He ain't take care of my son. I don't owe that man nothing. If I thought that joker was a racist and I thought he was a fraud, I'll give him the middle finger. But I really believe that he's doing the right thing, man. I look the stuff up myself. I don't be looking at the TV all the time because they be lying. So I just look it up. So, okay.
We're going to get to race because we're going to end on that. And I know that's clearly a lot of this is about being a Black Trump supporter. So far, everything we talked about, you could have been the whitest dude in Arizona and we could have talked about it. But we also want your perspective on that. But the one last thing I'll say is, what about Trump Jr., Manafort, and Kushner going to a meeting with Russian nationals for the express purpose of getting dirt on Hillary Clinton? That's fine.
Opposition research is not illegal and there's not anything wrong. Hillary Clinton paid, Christopher Steele, which is a foreign nationalist who was a spy for the FBI. He ended up getting fired for the FBI because he leaked information to the media. She hired him to develop a dossier, which they used to get a FISA warrant to surveil Donald Trump's campaign. And that's how they end up catching Flynn, because somebody leaked his name, which is illegal, to the press. So, I mean, she did opposition research and used a foreign nationalist, a person who was from another country, Russian involvement. Nobody's even talking about that.
Here's my understanding of how that went. So the Republicans hired, was it like GPS International? GPS Fusion, that's what it's called. Fusion GPS.
No, not Republicans, the Democrats. Fusion GPS.
Listen, hear me for a minute. Republicans hired Fusion GPS to do research on Trump, the dark horse candidate that wasn't going to win. They built a little dossier on him, and then Trump became the nominee. They dropped it because they were just doing this for Jeb Bush. I don't mean specifically him, but standard Republican nominees. At that point, they got this dossier, nothing to do with it. At that point, the Clintons buy it, right? Now, it might have had some things in it that came from a foreign national, but she didn't go to a meeting with a foreign national, and I don't know that...
Christopher Steele, the guy named Christopher Steele. He was working with...
Give me some dirt.
Her campaign was meeting with him, and he gave them information that was compiled, that created a dossier that they supposedly gave to the FISA court that warranted a freaking search warrant for them to do electronic recordings of phone conversations. They were supposed to be recording, Russians, but then they had Americans on the phone call. They're not even supposed to disclose America's name. It's a felony. But somebody in the Obama administration unmasked the names, and then they found that it was Flynn in Trump's campaign. And then they leaked his name to the media. So, I mean, regardless of all that, everybody knows that to be a fact. But they were doing opposition research. Donald Trump and them did the same thing. It's not against the law. It's not uncommon for them to try to find dirt on people. And supposedly the meeting ended up being nothing because the Russians really had no information that they could use. So the meeting was all for naught. But it's opposition research.
It might have been. Well, let me say an alternative theory is that the Russians knew that if nothing else, they knew that this meeting, I'm of the belief that the meeting is illegal because foreign people can't make campaign contributions, and even a contribution of information that's valuable to the campaign counts. So it's not just can't give you money. I can't give you a hot stock tip. Well, I can't do it from if I'm from another country. And so the Russians, who are expert, this is a theory. I'm not telling you this is a fact. This is a theory that the Russians know that, even though maybe Trump Jr. and them are less sophisticated. They go to the meeting.
So the Russians are definitely not working with Trump then, because they're trying to get Trump them.
Oh no. The Russians, you've heard the word compromise, because you always talk about the damn P tape. The Russians spend a lot of time building dossiers on everybody. So because that kind of leverage is power. And so you work with a guy and you get a blackmail stuff on him for the same reason. Go ahead.
Yeah, Obama and them did the same thing, because Russia was trying to interfere in our election during Obama's administration before Trump was even involved in this. That's evidence. And Barack Obama never brought it up. He never said anything. He never told Trump about it or nothing. There was an investigation already going. Obama ended the investigation into Russian collusion. And then all of a sudden they pick it up again when Trump is the president. That's phony to me, man. I don't even care about Trump or Obama. It's like when you do stuff like that, that's fake to me, man. They knew that the Russia was trying to interfere in our election. That is a fact. They attempted to interfere in our election. Before Trump was even involved, Barack Obama knew about it. Loretta Lynch knew about it. And they ended the investigation. Didn't even tell Trump, didn't even make it known to Congress or nobody.
Well,
they didn't make it a big deal.
Well, Trump seemed to know something, because he said at a speech, Russia, if you're listening, hacker or whatever, hack the Democrats. And then they did that day. Right?
Man, that did
happen, right?
I saw Russia, that. No, I don't believe it happened in that fashion. I don't think Russia. Why would Trump be on TV and say, Russia, if you're listening to me, go hack something? I don't know how he said it or how it was translated. I don't know if they even heard what he said. None of that stuff. That stuff is irrelevant.
It's pretty amazing. No.
Man, if the president want to tell Russia to hack something, he can just call them up on the phone or get somebody to tell them something. He ain't got to go on national TV.
Sorry. He wasn't the president. Okay, maybe I'm confused. I mean, I'm not confused. Maybe we're misunderstanding each other. He said this as as a candidate, as a nominee.
But I don't think they get. I personally don't think that had nothing to do with what Russia was doing. They had already been doing stuff. They ain't wait for President Trump like a dog waiting for you to pet him and say, "Oh, President, wait, are you gonna say the key word? Oh, key word. The president said the key word. We can start leaking. We can start going into people."
There's two things we know. He asked on this day, and they hacked on this day.
Right, that don't mean that they don't mean that there's a connection, in my opinion. I mean,
that's pretty.
Trump. In my opinion, Trump just be on that topic.
Please, sir. He asked them, and they did it within 12 hours.
Okay, that's fine. How you know that you have to go investigate them and say, did you hear what Trump said? Did you hear what he said? And did you do what he said based on what you heard? And if they say, no, we didn't even know what Trump talking about. It just so happened he said it and we were already hacking. I mean, you don't know if that, I mean, that man.
Did you ever put anybody away as an officer, or was every single person like, we don't know these drugs were his just because they're in his pocket and it's got.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been to court, but you can't just go off circumstantial evidence all the time. You got to have hardcore evidence. A lot of people that should be in prison right now ain't in prison because you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that happened. You can't just go in.
You feel like it's reasonable. You feel like it's reasonable to say just because Trump asked at 5:00 for Russia to hack some emails, and then they hacked those emails at 9:00, that doesn't mean they hacked them at Trump's behest.
That don't mean he was involved in it. Just because the man made a statement on a campaign trail don't mean that Russia is even listening to him and that he even need to say nothing to them. I mean, you could say that. Oh, it just so happened Russia. He said it and Russia did it, but that you can't build a relationship. Say, okay, Trump. They're waiting on Trump to give a speech tonight, and they're waiting for him to say something about hacking. Man, they already got their stuff planned up. They already been trying to interfere in our election before Trump was even a candidate. They already doing this stuff. I don't know why people act like Trump needed to, like they helped Trump. He lost the popular vote. They didn't. You know,
that's exactly.
Hillary Clinton was a trashy candidate. She sucked. Bernie Sanders would have won. Bernie Sanders would have won. And they screwed Bernie Sanders out of the primary because they fraudulent. And Hillary Clinton didn't even campaign in all these places. Her rallies sucked.
We lost you. Are you there? If you're talking, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we got you. We
Hear me
got
now?
you. Sorry. You said her rally
Okay,
sucked.
I don't know what happened. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep. You said her rally sucked.
Her rally sucked. She had no turnout. She was a fraud. She wasn't Obama. And Bernie Sanders, she screwed over Bernie Sanders.
Listen. You're not talking to a Hillary supporter when you.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying he didn't need Russia to win, man. She caused him to win.
Well,
I didn't think about it. Russia ain't did nothing to me to make me vote for Trump.
So let's just in order to maximize time too, and let's take it from foreign shores back to our shores and really even more localized to like our communities. Now you mentioned that you grew up in Tucson.
No, he said
no. I grew up
in Florida. Okay, but you were saying that the conditions in which you grew up in were very difficult, and we were talking about some of the local. Yeah, I'm curious, and again, this is not about even comparing Trump policies to Obama or Trump to Obama per se, but I've been critical on this show about Obama in terms of in 8 years, even though I felt he was charismatic, even though I voted for him for 2 terms, I believe that the conditions in 2008 in communities of color and poor communities and indigenous communities across this country didn't change much over 2 terms. And I was critical for that.
Right? They got worse. Actually, they got worse.
Fair enough.
But okay.
And now in Trump America, can you articulate how conditions are improving in your mind based on Trump policy in these same communities?
Okay, so the first thing that Trump did, he signed an executive order to give HBCUs $1 billion, which obviously helps. And that was more than, and what he gave HBCUs was more than what President Obama did. Black entrepreneurship is up 400%. Black support for Trump is actually up, if you depend on what poll you look at, but it's definitely up double than it was when he ran.
It was you and one other guy.
Huh? Yeah, right. I mean, just for facts' sake, the Rasmussen poll was the most accurate poll in 2016, which predicted that President Trump would win. Only poll that was accurate at all. It was the most accurate and one of the only polls that were accurate. They did a poll about Black support for President Donald Trump, and they said that the poll was at like 36% of the Black population is supporting President Trump. So
if I can say something real quick. So Rasmussen, and that doesn't mean, I'm not saying they just make it up. I'm just saying
they were accurate. They were the most accurate.
Yeah, well, listen, so they're known to be the most right-leaning of the main pollsters. But so, one thing, polls, if a poll has a bias on either side, they always say their person has a chance. But so in this case, they would be like,
okay, the NAACP did a poll. I think it was the NAACP did a poll, and it showed that President Trump was like at 20%.
I've heard that. It's not really. I was joking. It's not zero.
No, it's not. It's definitely not zero. I mean, I held an event where 700 people applied to the event, and we had 400 people go down to the White House. And we could next year we're gonna have 1,000 people. We're gonna have well over 1,000 people. So I mean, I see the influx in Black people support. You should see my inbox. It's a whole bunch of Black people support President Donald Trump, and they just can't say nothing because they'll get mauled. But President, okay, back to what I like about President Trump and what he's doing for the Black community. The first real legislation that has been passed for federal prison reform, which I have family members in federal prison, was the First Step Act. President Trump endorsed it. It was a bipartisan bill, but the president endorsed it. He supported it. Some people in the Republican Party wanted to not get it passed. I went down there, me, Candace Owens, and a lot of people, we went down to the Congress's office and the corridors, and we lobbied for the First Step Act. It ended up getting passed. President signed it into law. It reverses the 3-strike rule of 3 strikes and you get life to taking it to 25 years, which I think will help a lot of Black people. And I think they do it retro.
Yeah.
Also,
let me say that's one of the first times we actually agree. Not only do I like that Donald Trump signed that, and I think Harry likes it too.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was.
Not only do I like it, I can't even think of an ulterior motive, except for maybe him or his kids might eventually need those. Not so much. But
to be honest,
buddy.
To be honest, it's not shocking to me because when he was in the campaign, he said, "What do Black people got to lose? Give me a chance, and I'll do something for you. I won't just be talking. I'll make something happen. And that's not it. He signed the Urban Revitalization Coalition, which economists believe will stimulate $100 billion to these designated urban revitalized areas in Maryland and other places like that. I mean, that's huge. President Obama definitely didn't do that. But I'm telling you right now, I know people in the White House, and I know for a fact they're working on stuff even greater than what we've already seen. He's only been in office for 2 years. You know, I can't say much about it, but I know that he's going to do more for Black people than any other president.
But so far, like 2 years in, you feel like?
He has done all this in 2 years. Lowest unemployment in history. Now, people say it's a carryover from Obama. I will admit that it definitely, Obama had something to do with it. You know, I'm not going to say that at the time Obama left office, all of a sudden it was all Trump. But people believe one of the most racist people of all times, and the unemployment is dropping even further. It's like he's continuing the trend in a positive direction, where we have the lowest unemployment in history for Black people and Hispanic, and the lowest unemployment in 60-some years for women. All of these things are very positive.
I guess specifically, what did Trump do in order to, like, I think those stats are great, and I'm hoping that
those are the things that he's doing. Okay, cutting taxes.
What did Trump's policy, what particular policy are you talking about that contributed to that unemployment rate?
Out of all the stuff that I said, but in addition to that,
well, giving $1 billion let's parse what you're saying, though, because giving $1 billion to historically Black colleges does not necessarily do anything for unemployment, right?
No. Okay, we can skip. I'm just you asked me about what he's doing for the Black community. We could talk about unemployment now. I believe that the tax cuts and a lot of his rhetoric against illegal immigration into this country, they both went hand in hand in helping job opportunities, and also companies that are putting jobs back into America, and which is stimulating a lot of jobs, which you can look at the stats. He's created, I don't know how many jobs in his first tenure, which is far up and beyond what they imagined that he would do. Those things are helping Black people in the inner city or in these communities where they need the help. You know, Black people like myself who are making good money. I mean, that's not necessarily what I'm worried about, but the people who need the help in these minority communities, these things are really helping them out. They can have more money in their pocket to do more things with the tax cuts, and also the tax cuts stimulating growth and job opportunities in businesses who now can reinvest in the communities. And with the urban revitalization, we're going to see that increase more, because we're going to see more businesses, $100 billion worth of businesses in these revitalized areas, which are going to give Black people jobs. And then I can speak again with the illegal immigration. I mean, these people aren't coming to where I live. I live in Scottsdale. They ain't coming up here in Scottsdale. They going up down in Fort Worth. They going in the hood. They down there in LA. And then any of these jobs that are available, they taking them, because they can, in some cases, they get paid less than American citizens. So they ain't finna pay no brother nothing. They can pay this Mexican. And people know what I'm talking about. Everybody know I ain't lying. You go to Home Depot, I
don't want to get derailed, but
okay.
It's interesting to think about. I mean, I feel like catching, illegal immigrants or whatever is one thing, but I feel like if there was a crackdown on the companies that skip over America, I don't know why they're not unpatriotic. But
I think it's very hard I think that they are unpatriotic, in my opinion, but I think it's very hard because illegal people come over here and they boost stuff. They get Social Security numbers and they get all this other stuff. So it makes it kind of hard for people to even know if they're illegal. I think some people they were illegally, and I think they work for Trump's organization. And people can scam. People can put certain names on resumes and stuff like that. They can get through the system. They ain't coming over here eating peanut butter sandwiches. They coming over here, and it's a whole market of illegal activity they can get involved in and get employed. I mean, when I was growing up in the hood, they used to have a dude that come around, and he had a big old list of credit card numbers and Social Security numbers, and they sell it to people in the hood. You think they ain't doing that for these Mexicans? I worked hard for my gold teeth, man. I ain't had to get it. But what I'm saying is that there's a market for it. And even my baby mama's sister, Juan Gonzalez, stole her Social Security card and been filing taxes on her Social Security card when she wasn't eligible yet. When she was finally eligible, had a job, she couldn't even file taxes because the person had already been filing taxes for the last 5 years on a Social Security number. So, I mean, it happens, man. We all know what it is. And I think that that's hurting the Black community. So those things that he's doing is helping.
Contact from a certain Mexican after the show.
Hey, man. Hey, I love Mexican people. I love all people. Just come here legally. That's all I'm saying.
So we're getting close to the end. We talked a lot about all the different Trump stuff, about like what we think about him. But if we really extrapolate from your story, everyone knew you to be a Democrat that whole time, and then you converted. You got a baby mama that you already had. How is everyone taking it that you've become a prominent Trump guy in a, I'm going to assume that your politics reflected your families, and so that for them, they were liberal.
No, I'm going to say something that probably shock everybody. Most Black people are conservative. And I feel like Black people just really don't process it, because it's always been said that the Republicans are racist white people and they don't care about Black people. And it's like, historically, that's not really true. But I think that a lot of Black people think they're Democrat and they're really not. So my dad raised me like this. I just thought that the Democratic Party was what was supporting who I was. And I realized that it wasn't. So my dad supports me in what I do. You know, he comes to my events. He was at the Young Black Leadership Summit. I invited him to the White House. You know, he supports me. He doesn't agree with everything I say, but over time, he's starting to see what I'm talking about, because I put together that event with 400 Black people, and Al Sharpton got on television and said we got paid to put MAGA hats on. And my dad was right there, and CNN didn't even report our event at all. And so my dad saw that, and I say, Dad, you see what they do to me? You know that nobody paid us to do this, Daddy, and you know CNN ain't report on this when this is a major event. And my dad saw that, and he like, man, that ain't right. And my dad and them voted Democrat this election for the senator, Beto O'Rourke. My dad and them live in Texas. I told them to vote for Ted Cruz. They voted for Beto. He said, not this year, but I bet next year my dad and them will see. My dad don't want his taxes raised. My dad make a gang of money. His retirement is 6 figures. He's still working because he like what he do. But he don't want his taxes being raised. My dad don't believe in all this stuff that they be promoting. So I think that over time he'll change. My mom and them agree with me. My brother agree with me. But everybody I grew up with, they hate me. Everybody I went to school with, they hate me. Well, most of them. Some of them still like me, but a lot of them be talking trash like they about their life, even though they not. But, you know, there's a lot of Black people that hate me, man, and they look stupid to me, but because they just call me a coon and a house Negro. And it's like, bro, I'm far from that, man. Ain't nobody to tell me what to think, man. I ain't worried about pleasing a white man. That's stupid to me. But anyway, that's kind of what my family dynamic is.
So I think, I definitely, I believe you. I believe that people, so something, you know, you don't know us, whatever. And I didn't do any like, my boy sent me, Instagram Live, like one of them little chopped up, you got to keep skipping and chopping through the thing. I just watched one of those just to make sure that you weren't like a blathering zealot, and you weren't. And then you also didn't have the mustache. So I was like, all right, word. I would have taken the mustache, but that you were clearly a hood Black dude, which is who we are and what we want to, talk to. I was like, damn, this is great.
Yeah, most of us are like me. Most of us Black conservatives are like me.
Well, and I agree with you actually. So this is known within the Democratic Party. It's changing a little bit, but Black people are fiscally liberal, but socially more conservative, because Black people are, of course, way more religious, right? White people are about 70% religious, and Black people in America are like over 90%. So of course the church is gay marriage, right? All
the stuff the Democrat promote.
I'm for it. I can admit that I'm for gay marriage. But
I'm not for it, but I ain't finna hurt nobody over it. I'm just not for it because the Bible says that it's a sin, and I don't support it. And I don't believe people. I think people are just sexually confused. Now, that's just my stance. And I don't know why Black people, you go to church every Sunday, but you think that's okay? You willing to overlook that? It's like, you don't have to hate nobody. God told you to love them. But why are you checking the box to support that when Jesus said that wasn't right? Why are you supporting abortion when God said that ain't right? Life starts at conception. Why are you checking the box and promoting abortions? I had to internalize that in myself. People were calling me out for that. Like, bro, you believe in God, why you believe in that? And I'm like, dang, man, I really don't have an explanation, man. I don't really believe in that. I can't support those things. I love my gay friends. I have some friends that are gay, but man, I can't support that stuff. But we steady going.
I mean, I guess in a way,
I'm friendly with them. They ain't in my close circle, man. I ain't hanging out with them and their husband. But I know some dudes that are gay, and like we do events and stuff, and they be there, and I love them to death, man. They good men. Like my homeboy, you know, Rob is a good dude. I think he's just sexually confused. He got a husband and stuff, but I love him like a brother.
Confused to take a dick in the ass for years, man, and you don't like it
and be mad. I mean, but I think that, you know, stuff happened to people. You know, some of my family members been raped and stuff, and like one of my best friends, he's a pastor, and he struggled with homosexuality because he got raped when he was young, and his only intimacy was with a man growing up. So he don't really know how to function. He struggled with it. He wanted to be married, but he still had these thoughts about men and being intimate with a man. Like that stuff is real, man. And a lot of people in this society, they just go with it. They don't get no help with that. They just say, "Oh, this is my lifestyle now, and I'm doing it."
You're an intelligent man, and I would say you can recognize that while many of the incidences you talk about are true, that there are certainly men who grow up as adults and have homosexual behavior because of abuse. There are also men who have not been abused and are still identify as homosexual. So
yeah, I say that, but ain't nobody born homosexual. Nobody's born homosexual, but I think that some people end up being nurtured into it. Like they may have more propensity because they're more feminine and then they around their mama or they get introduced to it. But you're not born that way. There's no scientific proof that anybody has a gay gene. There's no such thing as a gay gene. Well, it don't exist.
I know. So, I can think of 10 listeners that I have right now that correspond with me that are gonna go fucking nuts that we don't fight about this for the next 20 minutes. But it's not what we're talking about.
But we don't have to fight about it, man. This is my opinion, and it's scientific proof that nobody's born that way. There's no gene. They can't detect that. And so I understand. I respect the person's opinion about how they think they feel. I can't tell them what they feel. I'm just saying there ain't no scientific proof. So I'm not going to just go off of people's feelings. I say there ain't no scientific proof, but a person say they feel that way, then that's fine. I don't agree with you, but I never hurt you. I love you like you my brother. I won't support some of the things you do because of God, but if you need me, I ain't going to leave you out on the street hungry, and because you gay, I ain't going to support you. You know, I never hate nobody gay. That's their life. Just don't bring it in my house. And I won't bring my religion in your house. That's how I feel about it. We can coexist together.
Well, I like that coexist and don't bring it in the house. But I think in this case, because this is how we got on this, the house is the country, right? Like, for example, based on you should say,
like if I was running the country, if I was running the country, I openly don't support gay marriage. So if I had to vote for it, if I had to push legislation, I'm not going to support it. But we live in a country where I don't write laws as the president. I just sign it and, you know, whatever. But like, there's certain things that Congress has to pass. There's certain things that goes through the Supreme Court. So, you know, I don't advocate the stuff, but I ain't finna hurt. I'm not finna write no legislation and say all gays will be banned from something.
Well, let's put it this way. So I'm an atheist. Okay.
True.
And I don't support religion. But if they put a law in front of me that said, well, Jeff, good news, we're going to ban religion because we don't like it either, I would say, no, we're not banning religion. People have a right to do things that Jeff don't like. And in that same way, I would hope that you would say, oh, yeah, people being gay, you know, I think God don't like it. But should people be allowed to be gay and be gay married and gay adopt and all these things? Yes, because my God don't make their legal rules.
Yeah, I don't think people should. I personally don't think people should be gay adopt. But this is what it comes down to. If I'm not gonna say you can't be gay because it's a free country. But what I will say is that I don't consider that marriage. I consider that being a civil union or two people being together. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Biblically, marriage is a biblical thing. Marriage ain't no secular thing. So I don't interpret it that way. But I'm not finna stop nobody. If I had to pass legislation, I wouldn't have never made gay marriage. I would never made a gay relationship considered marriage. But I would give them rights to have their partner's benefits and stuff, and they would call it a civil union. I wouldn't consider it a marriage.
Do only Christians get married? Do you recognize Buddhist marriages?
They can get married within whatever their religion is. It's a religious principle. Christians get married. Muslims don't. Okay, go get married as a gay man in any Islamic country. You gotta be crazy.
They got a big problem with homophobia too. And you know what?
It ain't no such thing as homophobia. Homophobia don't exist to me.
Okay.
There's no such thing as homophobia. People have a right not to like. People have a right not to like homophobic behavior, or not homophobic behavior, but homosexual behavior. That don't mean you hate the person. You have a right not to like it, just like people have a right not to like the Bible. You don't have to believe in the Bible. You can do your own thing. I don't have to like what you're doing with, you and another man. I don't have to agree with that. I don't have to accept that in my America. Like I don't like personally in my.
I don't have to accept it in my America. Is a little different. We got to move off. We got to move off this. I'm interested. So you said I think you answered this, but you said your baby mother's cool with it. Like I'm saying, your.
Nah, man, my baby mama. I mean, she hates Trump. She's a liberal. But my other.
What happened?
No, I mean, I was when we were together, man. I had gold teeth in my mouth and stuff. So we ain't been together since for like 8-9 years. So I don't really care what she do. She can do what she do on her end. On my end, but I feel like relatively speaking, she respect what I do. Right. She ain't like coming against me hard or nothing.
Well, I think I think I can see why, because you are what you convey, like I said, is an earnestness, right? We don't, at the end about all this gay stuff, we really, really don't agree. But what I'll say is that it doesn't feel, I trust you and the sincerity of your beliefs in a way that I don't trust Donald Trump and the sincerity of his beliefs.
Well, I think I understand your perspective, but I feel like if you sit down and talk to Donald Trump like you're talking to me, maybe you'll think differently. People think I'm crazy and I'm a sellout and all this stuff. They talk to me and they like, bro, you a real dude. Like, you really believe what you're saying. And it's like, I really believe what I'm saying based on my research, man. And I don't knock you if you a liberal or people voted for Hillary Clinton. I'm not finna go protest nowhere. I didn't like Obama as the president towards the end of his thing. I'm not gonna go protest nowhere. I'm not gonna be mad at nobody if they had an Obama hat on. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna offend me. It's like, that's not who I support. So I'm gonna wear my people's hat. So if somebody had an Obama hat, I'm gonna wear a Trump hat. And we ain't gotta be mad at each other. I'm not gonna bludgeon somebody because they voted for Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders had a rally the same week that Trump had a rally. I didn't go to Bernie's rally because I didn't want to listen to Bernie. I'm not gonna go protest people for going to Bernie Sanders rally. I think he's a madman, in my opinion. I think he'd ruin the country if he was the president. But I'm not finna hurt nobody over it. It's just politics, man. I believe a certain thing. People have a right to believe something differently. I have friends that are liberals, and I don't care. My best friend, we don't talk about politics, but I know he don't agree with me. But man, I don't care. Trump is a president for only a certain amount of time. I'm not finna lose no sleep over no president. And if a liberal was in office ruining our country, I mean, I'll be upset about it, but I'm not finna be hurting people and protesting.
Well,
I don't know why people so mad at me for supporting Trump. It's just my opinion. They ain't got to be. I mean, they ain't better not put their hands on me. But other than that, I don't know why people tripping.
Right.
The dude is not a bad dude. Anyway, we could talk about race real quick because that's one of my topics I want to talk about.
Well, tell me when you said what you want to talk about. You could. What was you going to say about race? Because we about wrapping up.
I think Trump ain't a racist. I think it's all fabricated, man. That's political jargon. These people are trying to make people think that Trump is a racist. That man ain't never been a racist. That man ain't no racist. You know what I'm saying? If he was a racist, none of us would be voting for him.
Didn't he and his father both get fined by the feds for not renting to black people and stuff like that? Like,
well, it was a class action lawsuit with tons of people involved in that. And Donald Trump was like in his 20s, man. You could blame that on his daddy, but that dude, that's in his 20s. That wasn't a foundation that he built in his organization on. But when Trump is taking over and Trump is running the Trump campaign, he got an award for his involvement through the Push Rainbow Coalition with Jesse Jackson for his urban engagement and his efforts in the urban community. When the man is running his own business, then I'll give him his clout. But I mean, we're talking about something when he was in his 20s. I don't really think that's a reflection on Trump. Maybe his father, but that's not a reflection on Trump.
Well, something I've always said about Donald Trump, and I got a feeling you're going to disagree. So I think he's regular 70-year-old hard-ass New York guy racist, but he's not like in the Klan. This is what I think.
So racist against who?
Well,
Black people, white people?
No, I'm saying I think he has stereotypes and looks down on Black people. And I'm being honest, in the general way that a lot of old, rich white guys born the year he was born do. I don't think he's, this is what I think. You could just listen. I don't think he's a racial ideologue. And by that, I mean, the way that David Duke wakes up in the morning and goes like, I got to save this white race. Donald Trump, I am confident he doesn't think like that. I don't think he gives a fuck about that. I think if Omarosa is going to support him, he might think, he might have like little like basic racial thoughts. Like, you like fried chicken, don't you? But I don't think he spends his heart isn't like, I hate this inferior species woman. But the racists definitely love Donald Trump, meaning
they don't love Donald Trump.
The racists love Donald Trump. If you're a Republican, you're not racist necessarily. But if you're a racist, you're almost certainly a Republican.
I disagree with you 1,000%. Now, going back to what you said, you described prejudice to me. You didn't describe racism. Mm-hmm. You described prejudice, a person perceiving or having a prejudice against a Black person thinking they like fried chicken. That's not racist. That's prejudice. That's stereotyping. Racism is when you literally have an animus against another race, which clearly he doesn't. Remember the girl that her whole family got killed or something, and he put her up in a hotel? Was it? I want to say Jordan Sparks, but it wasn't. It was another girl. She was American Idol. Young Black girl, man. He put her up in a hotel. He supported her when nobody else did. I seen him give a young Black girl a job on the spot. You go to any of his businesses, most of his businesses, Black people work there. Could be the demographic, but Trump Tower, the Trump Hotel,
at the same time, racism doesn't mean at every moment you're mean to whoever.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna make a suggestion, you have to be open to think that, okay, you could possibly think he's racist, but you can also see that he's not a racist. Like, I think people will jump into judgment because of something he did, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff he do that really shows that he's not a racist.
Well, that's kind of like saying nobody talks about all the times I didn't murder a baby. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes something.
Yeah, but are you a serial killer or you just murder one person? That's a different thing. Are you a serial killer? You can't say he's a serial killer and he only killed one person. If a person is a serial killer, they're either a serial killer or they not. Either Trump does things that people perceive as racist or he's a racist. It's like, are you perceiving it or is the man an actual racist? And I don't know any racist or even heard of a racist. I mean, he's probably a terrible racist that have done and sacrificed what he has done. For Black people, he's gotten awards by Black people. He's been supported by Black people. I think generally he liked Black people. I think maybe he may be ignorant to Black culture because he's not around. I do think he's ignorant
to Black culture. So we're actually kind of close.
I agree.
I don't think he's a racist, but I do think he probably is ignorant because he's a billionaire, dude. How many Black people do he hang around on a day-to-day basis that aren't celebrities?
So I think
never been to the hood.
I think he
don't know what to say. He don't know how to say stuff. He go, there's my Black. I don't think he's racist. I think he don't know how to talk. So he know that, bro, if you've been around Black people for 2 days, you know that if you say, there's my Black, that probably ain't cool. But if you ain't never really been around Black people and you only been around, I'm not saying he haven't been around Black. I don't really know. But I perceive him being a billionaire with the status that he had. He ain't going to the hood. Nowhere. So he may be a little off on the way he come across, but I don't think the man is a racist.
So going back to the kind of psychoanalyzing that I do that you don't like, I think that he is not motivated primarily by racism, but by narcissism. And therefore, he would have, if a Black person like looks good and they make him look good and they compliment him and they flatter him and they do what he tells them to do, I think he likes that person. He might also think that, does the Black come off? Like, I don't want to get dirty. Like, he might have like racist, classic racist theory thoughts like that. But I think he likes Black people that kiss his ass better than he likes white people that challenge him, which is not true of David Duke and Richard Spencer, who support Donald Trump though, Brandon.
I mean, I think that's a big jump into conspiracy. I would argue with a very successful businessman that do business with everybody all over the world, I think he like people that get the job done. And I think he like people that got good energy, people that's loyal.
I don't know. He's loyal, I agree. he hasn't. Loyal is maybe another way to say people that don't challenge in his view.
But loyal don't mean that you don't disagree with him or that you're kissing his butt. It just means
what I feel. That's not what his what's the word? His administration and his thing has hemorrhaged people. It's had a lot of turnover. No,
I think it has had a lot of turnover. I think for good reasons. I think people ain't getting a job done. They in there lollygagging. He get rid of them. He ain't got time to play politics with people. If you ain't getting a job done, Omarosa, you got to go. If you ain't getting a job done, Tillerson, all these other people, you ain't even McMaster. I mean, not McMaster, but
Mattis. Mad Dog
Mattis. Big Mad Dog Mattis. He the biggest dog on the block. Mattis, if you ain't getting a job done, you got to go, bro. That just is what it is. Trump is a boss. He's not playing games with people. And anybody that's around him understand that. Like, he ain't worried about you people talking about him on a day-to-day basis saying, oh, you got a lot of turnover. Trump is like, bro, if you ain't a loyal dude and you ain't pushing towards the mission that I see, I'm getting rid of you and I'll replace you with somebody that's going to get it done. Because at the end of the day, my name is on, my reputation is on the line. And I'm not going to fail as an administration just because I'm trying to retain Mad Dog Mattis. Mad Dog, if you ain't on the boat, then you got to go. That's how I view Donald Trump. That's how I view a New York businessman. Like, I don't care about your race. I don't care about your sexual orientation. Can you get the job done? Are you going to make me money at the end of the day? Are you going to make my campaign successful? And if you can, Omarosa, I'll bring you on. When you start being fake, Omarosa, I'm going to fire you. You know, I don't like the way he talked, you know, when he be firing people. I think he should just chill out on some of it. But, man, that's just him, man. He going to do his thing. Trump is a boss. And people don't respect his gangster, in my opinion. Ain't no man in American history ever done what Trump has done. And people may not like him, but there's a lot of guts for you to be a billionaire and then run for president and win. I saw that man flying. Oh, go ahead.
Because I think I got the way you say Trump's a boss. Suddenly it's bringing me. It sounded like Slim Thug in 2000. But
yeah, like Slim Thug.
So I'm gonna do for the last. So what I want to basically do now, since this was mostly about you and your views, unfairly, I got to know you, or we got to know you a little more than you got to know us. So I'm gonna say what I got out of this, like what I learned, because my goal today and what we were hoping to do is figure out like how can a black dude support Donald Trump? And here's what I got out of it. It seems to me like you were a dude who didn't think too much about politics because you're focused on football and just kind of living kind of hood ratchet life. I'm gonna go to the NFL. I'm gonna have, I'm gonna live it up. At a certain point, your life took a turn and you got some purpose, and you became after football didn't really pan out, you got some purpose and became a true believer, right? Of like, the police force and that kind of stuff, law and order. At that same time, America was undergoing turmoil that we haven't really seen since the late 60s in terms of police versus the populace. And you were on the front lines and you felt that you were being like, I'm out here risking my life and these people spit on me and call me a sellout and scream Black Lives Matter. And then you felt like instead of Obama, who's supposed to be on the government side, instead of taking your side, you felt like he didn't do that. So you're disaffected with them, with the Democrats and stuff like that. And then at the same time, this rebel swoops in. And Trump, he really is a rebel in a sense. He's not a rebel for my cause, but he wasn't supposed to be real for president. He wasn't supposed to be the Republican nominee. And he said, I'm going to do things different than everyone else. And you said, well, the old Republicans were supposed to be against me. The new, Obama and the new Democrats feels like they're against me. They're turning the populace against me when I'm trying to serve this country. So you know what? I like this guy. And you like that he's kind of callous, that he's like, he's of the mouth, he's a cowboy. And I think you like that. I think that then you get into some more of the policies and start to say, these policies make some sense. I hadn't heard it from this other side. And then when you start sharing this with who was your tribe, they shit on you. And they said, you fucking Uncle Tom sellout. And that you said, damn, So meanwhile, one side got his arms open. Trump's not so bad. Come to us. This other side saying, you consider Trump, you make me sick. And it drove you to the other side. And that is where you reside today. And so when I asked you about Trump, you don't, I don't think you lie. I don't think you say anything you don't believe. I do think that there's a huge benefit of the doubt. So like, if it's something good that you can possibly see, I see you grab that like a Jesse Jackson NAACP award when I know you don't like Jesse Jackson, but yet you'll use his award as credibility. But if it's something that you don't like or something that looks bad, you say, well, we don't really know what he's thinking. And I don't think you do that as a tactic. I think that this is how I think that this is how one defends the group that they have started to identify with.
It's a combination of principle and confirmation bias.
Can I
Yes.
Speak up for myself real quick. I agree with a lot of what you said. The one thing I didn't agree with was the people who forced me into a certain direction. I mean, I was mostly around conservatives when I converted to being a conservative. So, I mean, it was just commonplace for me. I didn't live in the hood no more. I've been removed from my hometown for a long time. So I wasn't really pushed in a certain direction. It was like, man, I love this country. Okay, the Republicans are talking about loving the country. Hey, man, I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of nothing. White people ain't better than me in this country. I can get anything I want to get if I work hard for it. The Republicans are talking about that kind of mentality. I love the police department. I know we go out and serve and protect every day. The conservatives and the Republicans are talking like that. So I started leaning towards where I felt like this closely relates to how I feel. And if the Republicans somehow change it up, then I'll be reconsidering. But the Democrats are just way on the left, man. They tell me that the white man is out to get me every 5 minutes. And that this racial oppression and systematic oppression and racism, and I don't see none of this. That stuff don't affect me at all. It don't affect people I know. Everybody that I know is pointing at another man, saying, oh, it affect that dude over there. And I go over there and talk to him. He said, no, it's somebody else. It's like, it's a whole bunch of scare tactics that really cripple the Black community and cripple Black people. And I don't agree with that. I think we should be.
You definitely said you and your father's getting money. So I might convert.
Well, because the bottom line is that we ain't waiting on the white man to hold us down. My daddy started as a firefighter when he was 18 years old. There was some racial tension there. He used to tell me about it. But my dad's principle wasn't that, oh man, the white man doing this. My dad said, if you keep up, treat me like this, you're going to end up working for me one day. And my dad is all the way at the top. Now he's a police chief. Now he retired as a deputy chief making 6-figure pension. Now he's a chief now. And he's a chief in Waco. And so my dad fought his way up. My dad told me never to make an excuse. If you go to school and you ride your bike, you have a flat tire and you end up being late, that's your fault. You should have left earlier. If you have 2 flats, you should have left in enough time that you could walk to school. My dad didn't make it. Ain't no excuses, man. Ain't no white man holding me back. Ain't nobody going to stop me from getting where I need to go. If one job turned me down, I go apply to every job on the street until I get one. And I guarantee you I'll get one. And that's the philosophy that I grew up in, man. I didn't grow up in this watered down stuff that the Democrats are pushing to Black people. Oh, the police out here trying to get you. Man, that's false. That's a lie, man. You walking down the street, police ain't gonna do nothing to you. They ain't gonna deal with you. They too busy dealing with the criminals. You ain't gonna just get shot. Police ain't biased against Black people. It's all a lie. And I realized that when I was a cop. Like, man, these white boys ain't worried about no Black people. That's the least of our worries. Ain't nobody worried about Black people somehow commit crime more than anybody else. I mean, I'm saying in a general sense, like just because you Black, you a thug. Man, the white people shoot you too. And the Mexicans will shoot you too. The women will shoot you too. Ain't got time to be worried about Black people. Like we the only people that commit crimes. If you look at it, white people kill us more than Black people do. Now, Black people commit way more crimes than white people per capita. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like, dang, man, all that stuff they were telling me was a lie. That ain't even true.
I mean, I appreciate everything you said, actually, but you will admit, though, the Republicans are not strangers to fear tactics. Though. I mean, let's.
I don't. Man, I don't like neither one of the parties tickle my fancy, man. I'm just going off. Hey, man, what are you gonna do for my family and make this country better? I'm not tied to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Some of these Republicans I don't even like. I'm like, bro, y'all out of touch with reality in the Black community. if y'all were president, y'all wouldn't do nothing for black people. The same thing I see on the Democrats is going to push black people to the gutter. You're going to be poorer under them. You're going to be scared of the world and being free. You're not a part of the American dream. This country ain't made for you. Yeah, right, man. I'm out here making money. I know people out here making bank. Brothers out here making it happen. Getting degrees.
That's it. Where do I get it? Do they sell MAGA hats extra large?
Nah, man, you got to get that on Amazon, bro. Hey, I'll send you one if you want one.
Let's hold on.
2020, by 2020, you'll be wearing one, man. By 2020.
Oh dear God!
Yeah, we look forward to you and Kanye's candidacy.
Man, I wouldn't run with Kanye for nothing, man. Everybody jumping on the bandwagon. I like the fact that he tried to say he was a free thinker. But man, Kanye ain't no conservative, man. Kanye is about he about making money. That man ain't he confused, man. I don't even think he really know where he stands.
Man, I feel bad sometimes.
I feel bad for him because I feel like he wanna step out and be himself, but I feel like people back him in the corner, his handlers. You know, he got this big major $1 billion contracts and stuff. Like he can't really say what he really feel. And then I feel like he don't even really know what he feels sometimes. Like he got bipolar disorder. Like, man, they put him out there, man, and I feel bad for him, but he ain't nowhere in the world he gonna run for president.
We appreciate you, man. I mean, one thing is, our political leanings are probably, or are not probably, are definitely far more commonplace in today's, market of conversation. But your position is unique, and as Jeff mentioned earlier on, man, this wasn't a conversation, strictly set to debate or to refute or to convert. Where it's really more of just a platform for understanding, man. And I think you were very not only just gracious with your time, but I think we appreciate just how authentic you were in terms of your positions and just keeping it real, man, and letting us know where you stand. And this conversation, this has already gone on longer than we generally.
This is the longest show ever
that we've ever had. And I only mentioned that to say we could have probably gone on for easily another 2 hours just trying to learn more from each other, man. So
y'all can feel free to have me back, man. Feel free to have me back. I love to talk about police brutality and all that other stuff because I'm sure I have a unique perspective. But I just to say, man, I appreciate you guys, man, because not all black folks love black folks, if you know what I'm saying. I love black folks. I don't care if you disagree with me or not, man. I love you like a brother. And I wish that other black people would listen to this interview and say, man, we got to love each other at the end of the day, man. Even if a dude support Trump, you may not like Trump, but that don't mean you got to hate your brother. We got to be better than that, man. We destroying each other from every aspect. We kill each other all the time, and then we disagree on politics and we want to throw your brother away. Oh, man, you a sellout. You an Uncle Tom. You working for the white man. It's like, bro, if we keep doing that, man, we're going to be irrelevant. The Mexicans ain't doing that. The white people ain't doing that. We the only ones trying to hurt each other like this. And I thank God for y'all, man. Let me come on and just share my views and not like try to beat me up. I can fight, you know what I'm saying? But I don't want to fight with y'all. I want us to communicate, man, because I may be wrong about some stuff. You know what I'm saying? And maybe y'all can enlighten me and we can both grow together and build our communities. That's kind of what I see it as.
Well, it's my hope. I can say for a dude that I've known for 2 hours that I never met, that believes 400 things that I couldn't be more, maybe not 400, 40 things that I'm diametrically opposed to. I love that we're able to talk like this, so I thank you. You got something to like plug or your YouTube or like where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can Google me at Brandon Tatum. You can find all my stuff, BrandonTatum. All of my social media is at The Officer Tatum. And then eventually I'll have my website at The Officer Tatum where people can find more about me. I do speaking all around the country. And so if somebody want to hear me speak or they want to debate me or whatever, they can definitely get in contact with me so that we can make that happen.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, and I recognize you're probably not too familiar with our show. If you go back and check us out on the polandthepro.com, I think it was around episode 15 or so, we talked to white nationalist from Iowa. Where was he from?
He was from either Iowa, Nebraska, some
So
shit.
he was on the West Coast, and you are now the second white nationalist that we've had on.
Jesus Christ!
No, I'm kidding. Nah, man. That's all jokes, man. We appreciate your time, man. You definitely brought some enlightenment to a very interesting perspective, man. Appreciate that.
Harry, where can they find us? They can find me at Professor J Gray on Twitter, Instagram, all that.
I am Progress76 on Twitter, Instagram. And again, find out all the episodes of The Poet and the Professor at thepoetandthepro.com, man. Brandon, thank you, bro.